So okay, it's yeah. I guess we'll get into things, and I just want to welcome everybody here to the annual general meeting of the Mars Society of Canada for 2023. We did have an annual general meeting last year, and we've had quite a lot of updates over the course of the past year. It's been a particularly exciting year, which really started off with most of our volunteers actually getting to meet each other for the very first time at the SPEX 2022 conference, and that was being held in last November, and that was definitely a bit of a magical experience after having worked with so many people over the course of the previous 2 or 3 years over the course of COVID, and actually finding out these people are real people, and that was a really great experience. We're going to be talking a little bit more about SPEX 2022 along with other things as well. Yeah, so in terms of our developments, the way that we're going to organize the meeting is that we're going to go through and to have some very brief committee updates. Now, unfortunately, when it comes to going through the agenda, I do have to apologize because each one of these committees could probably have filled up this entire meeting with their various activities over the course of the previous year. Unfortunately, though, because we have so many people to go through each one of the committees, that I think there's about five who are going to be presenting here. We'll only have 4 minutes to go through and present what they've been doing over the course of the previous year and what they intend to be doing for the following year. After that, we want to throw it open for everybody else. It's a meeting shouldn't just be us lecturing people about what we've been doing. We also want to field questions and answers. And so the final 4 minutes of their presentations will be fielding various questions, any questions that you might have regarding their activities. And in terms of the presenters, just keep your eye on Amy. It's Amy and I worked out a little system to be able to keep people on track and on time. And we do definitely have to be on time. I see James Bruk is showing up, also going to be waiting for Terry, and they're going to be our keynote speakers. It's in about an hour's time. They're going to start talking about analog missions, and James has certainly been very active in that. He's the executive director of the Mars Society in the United States, and Terry has actually just returned from a mission to Mars, which took place this summer, and so he's got quite a lot of exciting material to share. I think it's going to be immensely interesting. But what we'll be doing next actually is I'd like to introduce a couple of new directors. We had board elections a couple of months ago, and very proud to announce that we've got Dr. Pooneh Maghol, Dr. Pooneh Maghol, and also Dr. Hanieh M. Provencher, who are our new directors, and they are also serving on various committees. We're very happy to have them. And so with that, what I'd like to do is I'd like to hand things over to Hanieh, who's going to introduce herself for approximately 5 minutes, and then Pooneh will introduce herself for 5 minutes, and then we'll start getting into the various committee meetings. And so with that, Hanieh, could you take it away? Introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself.
Well, yes, I would like to share a little slide first, so with everyone, so it's much simpler. So I just need a moment to share my screen. So I guess you can see the screen now, right?
Yeah, looks good.
So just let me. Okay, so thank you everyone for attending this meeting, and thank you, Glenn, for little introduction on Mars Society of Canada. So my name is Hanieh. I am a researcher focusing on heart-brain interaction. Currently, I'm working at Montreal Heart Institute, and the focus of my research is the impact of changes of heart condition on the brain and cognitive abilities, which is the thinking abilities. Prior to that, I did my PhD in Polytechnique Montreal, and prior to that, I did my master's in Switzerland. In my career, I was always focused on brain and how brain is changes with diseases, with conditions such as what happens in space and how aging affects that. So that was the focus of my work at all times. So a little quick review of what my career path was to come to Mars Society of Canada. So let me, maybe I should introduce myself from the year 2011. So after I finished my bachelor, I started to work as an R&D engineer I was working in a medical sector company to design medical equipment. On that time was a pain pump, and I was in charge of developing hardware and software. After I started my education in Switzerland, University of Bern, for the same field, biomedical engineering, and I was focused on designing implants. And one of the implants that on that time we were interested and we were actually looking at was implants that could be matched to the space environment. So I don't want to go to the details, but I try to say this path to come to Mars Society of Canada was actually coherent with what I was doing. And after my master's studies, I worked for a few months in Germany. Then I came to Polytechnique Montreal for my PhD period, which again, I focused on brain imaging, heart imaging. I was looking at cortex and subcortical space and how different health conditions can affect that. And I was trying to find biomarkers with which we can actually evaluate the brain health. After that, I went to Montreal Heart Institute, and during the time, I was continuing my research again on heart-brain interaction and cognition. On that time, I got some educations from MIT on Massachusetts Institute of Technology about aerospace engineering, astronautic, and human space flight. And shortly after, I was lucky enough to meet people from Mars Society of Canada, and now I am here as a board of director, and I'm very happy to work with these wonderful people. If you want to talk to me, write me an email and you can scan me. It's on the page. So thank you so much. That's it for me. I don't.
Glenn, you're muted, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm terribly sorry. I did warn people that I'm not exactly terribly proficient with Zoom, so you have to bear with me on that. But Hanieh, thank you very much. It's certainly been great to get to know you over the course of the last several months, and very much looking forward to the update from the research committee, which Hanieh has been taking one of the leads on. And Rym, welcome. It's absolutely fantastic to see you. If you feel up for presenting, that would be great. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to hand it over to Dr. Pooneh Maghol, and she can spend 5 minutes talking about herself. Oh, and just to let everybody know about the system that Amy and I worked out. If you can keep Amy on your screen, she's going to put a little red clock up in the upper left hand corner, just like that. Just to let you know when you've got 1 minute left to present, and so she'll definitely be keeping track of things. And so with that, Pooneh, I'd like to hand it over to you. Tell us about yourself.
Hi everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm sorry I'm not home. Then I have no presentation to show you, but I try to make it short and just present myself. My name is Pooneh, and I am an associate prof of civil engineering at Polytechnique Montreal since August 2021. And prior to that, I was an associate prof, at University of Manitoba. And my research focuses on resilient infrastructure, the subject to climate change and harsh environment, and including low gravity conditions. And I've been working on lunar geotechnics and ISRU for about 2 years, 2.5 years. And I am currently chairing a group, a committee for ASCE, American Society of Civil Engineers, and we are in charge of developing the first ever manual for lunar construction. And we've been working closely with many, the colleagues from NASA and, different universities in the United States for this development. And I'm very glad to be with you at the Mars Society of Canada, and I hope that I can make some, connections between academia and the society, that we can actually do more research and be engaged with universities. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. It's as well. It's been great working with you over the course of the last few months, and wow, certainly with a lot of our last few meetings. Yeah, we definitely have some fascinating plans in development, and I'm very much looking forward to how things go. And so with that, it's I guess what we'll do is we'll start getting into the committee updates, where we'll actually start getting into some of the details about what our volunteers have been up to. And so with that, let me just double check my agenda here. It looks like we're going to be going back to Hanieh with an update from the research committee. And so with that, Hanieh, I'm going to hand it right back to you.
Okay, thank you so much. So give me a moment to share my screen again. Thank you. Okay, so thank you very much again, Glenn and Pooneh, for the nice introduction. And I'm very happy that we have Pooneh here with us. It's very valuable to work with her. So I continue to talk about a little bit of initiatives of research committee. So when I started with Mars Society of Canada, I was put at the head of research committee, but of course, I think the contribution of each colleague is important in this case. So we are working all together. So what I'm going to talk today is about exploring deep space research initiatives. And when we are talking about deep space, is mostly we are referring to research and explorations for Mars. So as the outline of what we are doing, I start by saying a little bit about space environment. As we all know, space environment is not very friendly to human body. There are different damages and there are different issues and problems that can happen for space. Therefore, we want to develop our technologies. We want to improve our understanding about the environment in the space, and we want to develop ourselves so we can understand and solve those problems for astronauts. And of course, that's not only will be useful for the astronauts, it can be also useful for the people living in the remote areas. The research committee is focused. What we are doing now, we are exploring few important domains. Of course, it's not limited to that, but that's actually what we are doing at the moment. We are studying space health. We are trying to provide initiatives for space health, space psychological health, space agriculture, technological development for the space, and of course, the space law and ethics, which at this moment is not what we're working at, but that's one of the plans to be added to our activities. So I explained a little bit about each of these topics briefly, because I have only a few minutes. So about the space health, this is the part that me personally, I'm extremely interested in because it's in line with my activities about cardiovascular and brain health. So generally, when we are in the space, because we have microgravity, we have headward fluid shift. And therefore, brain activities will be affected by that. Heart activities will get affected by that. And then one of the first things that will be affected is decision making and the clarity in the mind, right? So we want to find the strategies to measure this impairment and try to find countermeasures, exercises to compensate for that. The other thing that is important is diet and nutrition. So we know the space environment is not a usual environment, that astronauts have access to different types of food. And of course, the body will start to react to that. And one of the things that gets affected by that is, again, thinking abilities and psychological states of the mind. Astronauts also under danger of different radiations that come from space and can affect their immune system and their bone density. Several different problems can happen that is worth research on that. And also psychological health, which is mostly related to confined environment by the space. So this is the picture of Sunita Williams and the other astronauts in International Space Agency. As we know, or we can see here, there are different health technologies that we can use in this space. There are like headbands, there are watches, they are like clothes with full of sensors that you can wear. There are like blood pressure measurement, different type of digital monitoring that actually this data from these sensors can be sent to a cloud computing interface, and then it's saved there and it will be processed there. And eventually we want to use AI-powered system to analyze our data for decision making. We are interested to machine learning algorithms that would be all under umbrella of empowering telemedicine and digital health and monitoring. And of course, we're interested to develop the technologies to improve understanding of space health. The other topic that is very hot nowadays is about like being in this deep space, like beyond International Space Agency's deep space, which the distance with Earth is very long. Isolation and confinement is even more. And the people who are there are in fact coping with the more extreme environments. And of course, there is an issue with the privacy and personal space while we are in such a confined environment. Therefore, we are interested to develop psychological support system, some behavioral therapy for crew cohesion and dynamics, which already exist, but we need to improve that because we are going to deep space, and strategies to cope with the extreme environment, stress management, and most importantly, post-mission reintegration when they come back to Earth. The other thing that is in particular interesting, and that's actually the competence of Glenn here, is about space agriculture. I think that's extremely cool. So one of the initiatives that we're interested to make, and we would like more researchers in the future work with us according to that, for that, is space agriculture. So we are interested to have these initiatives for space farming and technologies, plant growth ecosystem, lighting system for growing these plants, it would be different, genetic engineering, nutrition contents of the food that is generated in the space, how to recycle the food, and if these foods are safe for the microbiome, and what is the response of the microbiome of human to the food generated in the space. So they're all like areas of the research that we are interested to cover later. Anyway, as a summary, we have these initiatives, but not limited to what I said, but basically these initiatives for this deep space exploration. And we are hoping that this research can have synergy, create a synergy on better understanding of different aspects. For example, how nutrition impacts states of mind and psychology and decision making, how cardiovascular health affect the other like psychology. So they are all could be interconnected, and we are very interested to explore that. Hopefully, with the programs that we are creating in Mars Society, we can move towards reaching these goals. Thank you so much. Please follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. And we would love to have volunteers joining to us. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Hanieh. And it's yeah, to sort of re-emphasize that point. Yeah, we are definitely looking for more volunteers. If you're a volunteer or who might be interested in participating in some of our proposed research, potentially participating in analog missions or any other aspect of our organization, we are definitely very, very keen to hear from you to hopefully try to establish some of those synergies that Hanieh was talking about. But anyways, if I want to throw it open to the floor, we've got a couple of minutes for questions. Are there a couple of questions? Hanieh covered quite a lot of fascinating topics there. Just raise your hand and be heard.
I wanted to know, are you looking at artificial gravity research in addition to zero gravity research for the medical research?
Well, probably you're talking about microgravity. That's what I know, like zero gravity in absolute sense. I'm not aware of any experiment that could be done, but reduced gravity experiment, which it's done frequently by different communities based on like the physics behind the flight that is like decelerating towards down. So that has been done. It's interesting, of course, to study some of the physiological changes of the body during that. But I'm not sure about like is that so, like artificial gravity? You mean the gravity that we create with the flight, right? Do you mean exactly?
What I'm really asking is the global medical community for space is generally focused on microgravity health effects.
Yeah.
There's not really a lot of people working on Mars gravity or moon gravity health effects. That for me, that's a ripe area to work in. You have to exercise to kind of maintain your muscles. There's not a lot of people working on what that's going to be like on Mars or the moon.
Yeah.
So, and I speculate, Robert Zubrin speculates that, with some educated guesses behind it, that there's not going to be as many negative effects in Mars gravity as there are in microgravity. But that data needs to be captured somehow,
of course,
or researched. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to ask about.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right. And what it would be interesting is that if we want to create that 1/3 gravity, then we have to, let's say, one way maybe it's when you're on the flights to create this, like, let's say, reduced gravity, what should be the speed and distance, and the speed of fall to create 1/3 gravity, as you said. And then we can look at how the parameters of the body is changing. But definitely what you say is very correct, that microgravity that is experienced in International Space Agency is different than 1/3 gravity. And the effect has to be studied with its own data. I think you're completely right. And hopefully with having the facilities for that flights, we can tackle that as well. It was a very good point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. One last comment. Keep an eye on a startup called Gravity Lab. They're here in Seattle. They're working on some interesting stuff for this.
So startup on, could you please repeat?
Called Gravity Lab. Like Rocket Lab, Gravity Lab.
Yeah, Seattle. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Okay, well, thanks for that question. That is certainly a very hot topic, being addressed in a variety of different ways, and certainly something which is very much worthy of much more research, especially when we're talking about the 1/3 G, which we're going to be experiencing on Mars. And so with that, it's unfortunately we can't field any more questions because we do actually have to go to the next committee. It's really too bad that we don't have that we don't have more time. You know what? We're going to be having a speaker series coming up actually, and I'm kind of wondering if maybe it might be a good idea to actually have individual committees actually present their material for an entire hour, because I think that's really what it deserves. But nevertheless, we have to go through. We have to do a quick update, and with that, the next on the agenda, let me just double check here to make sure that I'm not leading people astray. That would be analog missions, and Amanda Spilkin has been working very hard on this. Well, quite frankly, the entire team has been working very hard on this. It is certainly going to be one of our very big focuses. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Amanda.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Really nice to see some new faces, really fresh. So starting off, maybe I'll give a little background of the image you're seeing. In the past, we had Jinsia on the board of directors, and he had the opportunity of going to MDRS. So he brought back a lot of fruitful information for us, and we hit the ground running. So this committee is made up of a lot of the Mars Society of Canada team. So Glenn, Pooneh, myself, Rym, Hanieh, and Miriam. So starting off, just to give you a timeline. So analog missions program was pretty much always a topic. However, we concretized it more this year since we had a lot of updates, a lot of positive things coming through. And so we created the analog mission program and committee. So just to give you an overview, so until around December 2022, we had the SPEX conference, we had development of the MEP program, which is going to be presented later, but there was the MEMS, which is the Mobile Educational Mars Educational Station, Mars Explorer Mobile Educational Station, always get that wrong. So this concept was being developed, and later on, it was actually submitted as a proposal to the CSA. So this update is going to be given later on. There's some good news coming up. In the winter, we had many people attend the SEDS conference in Montreal, and we had new people that joined our committee. So between winter and spring 2023, the analog missions committee grew quite a bit. We discuss future directions and also the different programs we'd be interested in doing. And so not only for analog missions, but also for educational and STEM purposes. In summer 2023, we began discussions with the Cosmodome in Laval, Montreal, of the integration of a new analog mission program. So not only for schools, but now for organizations where we can extend education and STEM topics to children. So going forward, fall 2023 and also winter, we are going to keep working on memes. Little segue, Glenn is going to be presenting something exciting, and also the looking ahead towards a project called MAMS. So this is really for a mobile analog station that is geared more towards research. So encompassing a little bit what was presented in the research committee. So the MEME station is really focusing on education for children, either primary or secondary, and looking at STEM specifically. So it will encompass all the different topics such as environment, agriculture, biotech, etc. But we're really focusing on the educational component for children. So going forward, we want to keep collaborating with schools. This has already been begun. Very, very good start. We also want to start collaborating more with MDRS. We want to start building our own facility. So something to be presented in a little bit of time. And then also, we recently had this wonderful deployment to FMARS, and we want to learn more from that. So just going ahead a little bit further, we started already discussing the development of a Mars analog mobile station. The name will change. That's why you see a TBD. But Glenn and the team have already started discussing exactly what components are necessary for creating a analog station. We began discussion of the requirements, the kind of standards that have been established so far. It is really a kind of a brand new field that can still be molded. However, we want to make sure that we are designing in the best way possible in order to meet different standards and regulations for really authentic, but also really robust research. And so that is the end for the analog missions portion. If there's any questions, feel free to shoot my way.
Okay, thank you very much, Amanda. It's got quite a lot of material to go through, and quite a lot of graphics, and quite a lot of models. Very much looking forward to the announcement, and I think that's one of the things that I forgot to mention in our agenda when it comes to the memes. The MEMES project, which is part of the Mars Explorer program that I'm going to be talking about next, we've got a pretty big announcement coming up. But above and beyond that, now it's time for questions. We're not going to be able to field too many questions, but there's got to be somebody out there that has a good question.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Nice to meet everybody. This is amazing. I'm so accustomed to nerding out on my own, or inside of Second Life with all the other space people. I'm looking at this this Mars analog mobile station, and I have been really heavily focused on 4-dimensional simulations of moon colonization. That's been my primary focus for the past few months, ever since I came across a technology called sentient hubs down in Australia. Some of you may have heard of it. I think I sent it to some. I really would like to know if anybody has been looking at doing 4-dimensional communications across the education system for this type of thing. Like, I know, like, having the mobile station, but being able to take it so that we are able to do full interactive 4-dimensional simulations instead of box. Because when I talked to them, they said that they would allow for it as long as it could be openly shared across nations' borders. They would be able to create the simulations for us to be able to share our experiences across time and allow for people to experience it in parallel universe format.
So could you elaborate a little bit on the 4D communication? I think a lot of us are pretty new to it.
Okay, so if you look at, I'm just gonna here. Yeah, because it's going to be something that I started using myself because I didn't know how else to explain it. If you look at this technology here that's in Australia, I know it fairly intimately now, because I'm not representing them, by the way, just so you know. Like, I was asked to. I'm not. I'm neutral because I wanted to stay completely neutral to everybody, because I think it's a really important technology that's in the world. But if you look at it, it's the ability to run systems within systems within systems within systems. So you can recreate biology. They have managed, I think that they deserve the first Nobel Prize for computing science. I'm going to try to build the case for it, no joke. But the thing is that with the processing ability to do all the interdependencies simultaneously, you're able to get an experience that is much like communicating in full 4-dimension across all possibilities as within all known interdependencies of science. It's a lot to take in. I laid down for 3 days. I'm not joking. It took me 5 days, I think, to fully process what it would mean to the world of science if we're able to do it. Now, they told me that I would be able to do it with the moon, but I'm here, and like I've been part of the SpaceX Mars Society and Second Life for a while, and like I just think that it applies to this because it's the future. I think it's the future of education, the Mars Society, and interplanetary travel is everything. It's my life. It's the reason why I go to bed. And I just wondered if anybody else has been down the road or the rabbit hole of doing the 4-dimensional communications of the colonization of Mars.
I think we're all pretty new to that concept, because I think it's more of a concept than just like a company or something. So I think the first step for everybody would be just get familiar with what it is, you know. And
yeah.
If you're saying it took you 3 to 5 days to like assimilate all the information in your mind, so I think for now the way we're looking at this is, how do we do experiments? How do we have universities engage? How do we have startups engage? You know, in Canada, what we're really trying to do is,
me too.
Yeah, really create like more that ecosystem, and like also give a platform in order to be able to do this type of research. But if it's something that is definitely, if it's doable, if there's a case for it, then we can explore it. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Okay. That's all I wanted to know.
And yeah, it looks like James Bruk has his hand physically up.
Yeah, quick question on the Mars analog mobile station here that's being shown. Would this actually be a station that you could move to another site, that you could pack up and move to another site?
Yeah, that is the goal. There are certain design restrictions and requirements in order to be able to, let's say, make it transportable on a highway, for example, right? Because the idea is that we would, let's say, in an ideal world, it would be great to have something that does either a company, organization that does 3D printing to make it collapsible, you know, so that it could retract and expand whenever we drop it off somewhere, right? That is the goal. Right now, these are just preliminary designs, preliminary ideas. There's also, you know, the factor of budget. So there will have to be a fundraising process that comes in with this. But so this is Glenn's mock-up, but we are continuously kind of brainstorming on what is feasible. And we also have Pooneh, who's a fantastic resource for this, since she has already experienced and gone through the process of like having to build structures, right? And build things that have to go on land. This is something that we are really building from the ground up right now.
No,
awesome.
Christopher, I just saw what you wrote in the chat there. It's yeah, certainly feel free to get in touch with us. It seems like you've got some. It seems like you've got some very very interesting perspectives there. And when it comes to analog missions, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to field any more questions at this point in time. But I want to let everybody know I'm going to be hanging around for about 15 or 20 minutes after the very very end of this meeting. And if anybody has any further questions, and certainly a subject like this definitely begs further questions, I'll make myself available to answer any questions that people may have, and certainly feel free to get in touch with us with any sorts of questions, any sort of suggestions or ideas, and yeah, let's keep the communication going, and that's how we eventually lead to innovation. And so with that, I'm going to look ahead on the agenda here, and we have to start talking about the Mars Explorer program. I'm going to try to keep this presentation as short as possible. I want to make sure that we certainly leave enough time for both James and Terry to do their James and Terry to present. So let me just share my screen here, and we'll get into it. Okay, I'm going to make the assumption that everybody can see my screen. And here we go. So the Mars Explorer program, this is something that we've been working very, very intensively on over the course of really the last couple of years. It was originally created by Hanieh M, a primary school teacher who wanted to develop a series of online learning modules to try to promote Mars, lunar, and STEM themed learning. So it's been supported by a relatively large team of volunteers, and we've had a chance to actually put together a number of learning modules online. But they're not only going to be accessed online by teachers and students, they are also going to be presented in class and at summer camps that we're planning for next summer by MSc volunteers. So just to give you a quick breakdown of the various modules. So we already have a couple of them online. There's about four or five more that will shortly be online over the course of the next couple of weeks. And these learning modules are really geared towards young students who want to be able to aspire them into STEM-related fields with very fun and immersive lessons. So they range from everything from how to build a city on Mars based on Tinkercad technology, how to grow a Martian garden, Mars on Earth. We're also developing an astronomy module as well that's going to be integrating AR and VR. So these are going to be made available online, but they can be used in a number of different ways. And one of the ways we've already had a chance to do is to do in-class presentations, and that's Hayden Hanna at the Pineview Elementary School in Athens, Ontario. He was presenting the Martian Garden module, and it was very, very well received. He actually was invited back for a follow-up lesson. He's also been invited to a local high school, and this is really one of the things that we're going to be focusing on very, very intensively over the course of the next year. We definitely want to find further schools to collaborate with. We want to find more presenters, and importantly, we're also developing the Mars Explorer mobile education station, which will actually be supporting these in-class presentations and also these summer camps as well. I'm going to be talking a little bit more about that over the course of the announcement that I will make at the very, very end of the meeting. It is certainly something which is going to beg a lot more questions, but I definitely very much looking forward to making that announcement. So I'm going to leave you with a bit of a cliffhanger there. But with that, I also want to talk about summer camps, and Vanessa has taken a very, very solid lead on developing a plan for these summer camps. A few other people on the committee as well, including Zoe and Angela. And so with that, I'm going to stop presenting, and I'm going to hand everything over to Vanessa. So just give me a minute here to stop sharing.
So hi everyone. I guess I can try and share my screen after.
Okay, stop sharing. There you go.
It's very exciting. So I prepared a few short slides because I know we don't have that much time. So let's see. Slideshow. Okay, so a few of us, good number of us, and there's a lot of interest in working and expanding the Mars Explorer program to also having a summer camp. So the idea is to get young students excited about space and Mars exploration. So we're doing this by creating summer camp programming with lessons and activities that all sort of work together in a cohesive way. So some of the lesson examples we're thinking of and have been working on and have finished are biology. So this is how to identify life on another planet. So they'd be given a mock sample and try and determine if there's DNA inside. The Martian Garden, which is something that has been successfully demonstrated in the Mars Explorer programs. Lessons that Hayden gave with Zoe. Permafrost, space habitats, so teaching students about permafrost, something that will be led by Glenn, and thinking about how to build proper habitats for surviving on planets like Mars. And so what do the students learn, and what is the goal of this whole summer camp? It's they get to learn about Mars exploration, space in a really new and exciting way. And the goal is that they get skills to think sort of outside the box. So we also have activities planned, such as building a time capsule that they can only open when the first person has landed on Mars. So it's sort of open-ended. They get to be creative and really think outside the box. And at the end of the week, the goal is that they'll be able to host their own analog mission and be their own astronauts. So we'll have a series of problems that come up that they'll only be able to solve with the knowledge they've gained throughout the week. For example, identifying life, or there's a problem with their habitat, how to fix it, or how to get food. So it all works together in a 1-week program. That's what we're planning right now. And hopefully we're thinking of making some good connections that'll help us actually collaborate with more established camps to really make this possible. So if anyone here is interested in joining, I'll shamelessly plug the summer camp program. We meet twice a month, every other week. We're a fun group. They're short meetings because we largely work independently and communicate over email. That seems what's best for us. So if anybody's interested in joining, feel free. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Thanks a lot, Vanessa. And we have time for one question, but again, I got to reiterate, I'm going to be sticking around afterwards because, especially with the breadth of the Mars Explorer programs, the memes trailer, and absolutely everything else, I'm sure there's going to be a lot more questions. But anybody, if you got that burning question, now's the time.
How many students are you hoping to reach?
We're hoping to reach. I'm sorry.
No, Glenn, you go.
Okay. We're hoping to reach approximately 2,200 students over the course of this particular school year. If we can go out to 2 schools per month, we should be able to reach that objective. In addition to the summer camps that we want to be that we want to be doing next year. In terms of the number of teachers that we're going to reach, we want to reach 100 teachers if we possibly can. We have to reach out to teachers because they're the ones who are they're the ones who are going to be benefiting most very, very directly from this resource, and actually helping to present this material. And so it's a very, very ambitious goal, but the numbers work. We can do it. Okay, and with that, we're gonna zip ahead on the agenda, and the next thing on the agenda is the events committee or social the social media committee, and it's Karan. I'm gonna let you take it away there. Karan has been extremely busy extremely busy with her social media platforms, and he's got some things to tell you. Karan, are you there? It
Yes,
looks like
I'm
your
there.
mic is muted.
My computer just got froze. Just give me a sec. Okay. Can everyone see it? Great. Okay, so if you are into the Facebook page, you might have noticed that I put on some polls. So that guy is me. When I ask some questions and I invite you to polling, that is me. So first of all, we need to start with what is the mission of social media committee. As I understand it, our mission is to spread the message to as many as people as possible. Because physical events and events like these are important. But more important is to have a social media presence, because nowadays people, when they think of something, they Google it first. So now what is the strategy to boost our followership? So the first strategy that we are doing is weekly polls. So, but as you can see in the page, this is a successful strategy so far, and it's been working. It is driving up engagement, and people look forward to the next poll. So it's going good. So now the second strategy is taking our YouTube channel to the next level. So for this, we have a person known as Mr. Kamal, who is joining us as a video editor. So our YouTube channel will be active. The second strategy is, as proposed by Glenn in the past meetings, that we can have regular contests on social media. For instance, we can have a competition to design the energy system for Mars habitat. And then we can declare the winners. And maybe then we can reward them with some gift cards or Mars t-shirt or a novel series, for example, Green Mars by Kennedy Robinson, something like that. So now the third thing that we are doing is we are starting a new series featuring Ron Craig. So I think Dr. Hanieh is also working on that. So that is there. Now there's something to think about. So we have Bill C-16. I think it was passed in like last week or week before. So according to this bill, we can't share the links of Canadian news without paying the Canadian news outlets. So this might limit our ability to spread out Mars-related news, especially when it is concerning Canada. So this is something we need to think about. So Facebook, Instagram, Meta, Google. So these platforms are impacted by Bill C-18. So now I'm open to questions and I'm looking for suggestions how we can drive the viewership and followership. And I was also thinking about if we can have a paid advertising campaign on Facebook, on Google Ads, so that we can reach out to maximum number of people. So what do you think about that? Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much, Karan. I'm just wondering, does anybody have any questions? Unfortunately, we're going to have to limit the questions. If there is one question, we'll field it now. If there isn't, then we can deal with it at the very, very end of the meeting. And what Karan was talking about there with Bill C-18, that has certainly put a bit of a stoppage on things when it comes to both Facebook and Instagram. If we can't post Canadian news on our particular group, on our particular pages, then how on earth are we going to be able to effectively use these pages? And so I think that's a lot of what Karan was getting at. We're looking for ideas. Karan came up with a great idea as far as using those polls. People have been very, very engaged with them. What else could we constantly be doing? It's a contest. It's trying to have debates or whatever it is. And in terms of the new speaker series, I think that might also be something else, which will certainly help us out immensely with our social media platforms. And it's James Karan, we'd be happy to allow you to run videos in the Mars Society YouTube channel in addition to yours. James, that would be absolutely fantastic. Thank you. But if nobody has any further questions about that, and I'm going to make it. Oh, I see Susan.
I'm not familiar with the law, so what I'm curious to know is it related to preventing organizations from using news links, or can we as individuals, are we required to pay as well, which seems unlikely. So in other words, if one of us individually posts a link of a Canadian news item, is that a violation of the law?
If I can properly explain Bill C-18, no, the individual users don't pay, but what the Canadian government is demanding is that Facebook and Google to pay the newslet organizations every time that a user posts one of their articles online. And yes, I saw that expression, and quite frankly, I share that expression. I'm going to try to stay apolitical, and I'm just simply going to describe what it is. And Facebook and Google have turned around and said, no, we're not going to pay. It's and as a consequence of that, Canadian users or anybody operating a Canadian page cannot post Canadian news. So that's become very, very problematic, and that's everything in a nutshell. Facebook and Google don't want to pay because they're saying, well, hey, we're driving traffic to these news organizations. What are they complaining about? And so that's all up in the air, but unfortunately, it has also become law. And that's the big explanation there. So it's a few things to think about, and it's just zipping ahead in the agenda here. We're getting a little bit close. Going to be talking about SPEX 2024. I'm going to be talking about the newly formed events committee. So let me just share the screen here, and I'm going to try to go through this a little bit quickly. And here we go. Let me share the slideshow. Does this look okay to people? This was originally going to be presented by Rym Chaid. It's one of our directors, but she had a somewhat disturbing morning, a bit of an emergency, and so she's not going to be able to present it. So I'm going to do my best here, and unfortunately, I've got all kinds of things wrapped around my screen here. We've hosted a number of different events over the course of the last year. We were at the Space to Earth Challenge. I was one of the judges there. It was really satisfying seeing these various teams coming in trying to solve a very particular problem, and that was conducted in collaboration with Space Health Concordia and Women in Engineering. And I'm trying to zip ahead here. There we go. Last year, we also had the opportunity to participate in the staging of a workshop at Concordia University. That workshop was a Moving to Mars workshop, which was conducted in collaboration with the European Space Agency. It was very well received, and it was also conducted back to back with our own particular conference, and that conference was SPEX 2022. Some very exciting times were had. We had a number of different speakers. It was very well received. We had approximately 110 different participants, and we even had Roberto Vittori from the European Space Agency, an astronaut from the European Space Agency, show up at the conference. Very exciting. It was absolutely satisfying to hear him and all the rest of the people talk. We also had a number of different student teams come in to present their work. I was also coupled with a visit to the Canadian Space Agency. I really wish that I was in that photo, but I was stuck in a snowstorm in southern Ontario. But everybody else had a really great time there. So what all this is leading up to is that that was not a one-shot conference. We are absolutely going to be continuing this. We're going to be skipping a year this time because we want to be properly organized for SPEX 2024. And so we're already putting out a call for volunteers. This is probably going to be taking place sometime between September and November of 2024. But we want to make sure that we get people in place now because we want to put on an absolutely fantastic conference for people. So we're looking for volunteers. We figure that we're probably going to need about twice as many volunteers as we had last year. So we're going to be looking for everything from conference coordinators, finance officers, logistics officers, speaker coordinators, volunteer managers, in addition to a number of other things as well. And so we're going to be putting out an announcement on our social media platforms. This is probably something that we can actually post on our Facebook page. We're going to be posting it elsewhere as well. So if you are interested in volunteering, or if you know somebody who wants to volunteer on this conference, now's the time. I think that Rym's going to be starting up the events committee meetings sometime over the following month. So definitely feel free to get in touch with us. And it's contact the chair of this committee, Rym Chaid. She has a Mars Society email, or you can get in touch with us through our contact page, and I will definitely get you in touch with Rym. And let me stop sharing here. And it's any questions from people? Okay, we're sitting at 2:57 here, and I think that it's about time that we hand things over to James and Terry. James and Terry, thank you so much for being here. James, you've certainly been involved in a number of different critical activities as the executive director of the Mars Society, and certainly with Terry's mission to F-Mars last year, I think that a lot of people are going to be really keenly curious as to what you have to say. So without further ado, James and Terry, this is your show.
Thank you so much, Glenn. Good afternoon, everyone. I guess I have about 20 minutes, and then Terry has 20 minutes after me. Is that correct? So Terry,
it would be 20 minutes between the two of you, and then 10 minutes of questions at the end.
Okay.
And then I'm hoping to make the announcement just before 2:30.
Okay, then I'm going to be brief because I want you guys to see what Terry has to show you. He just got back from the Flashline station, so that's highly relevant. So I'll just make a few quick points. First of all, I'm extremely impressed with you guys as an organization. I have a pretty good memory. It was not long ago for me that the Mars Society of Canada was defunct, and Glenn and I were trying to set up the website. So it's just amazing to see you guys here and all the awesome projects you're doing. It's very impressive work. And I want to say that we want to work with you more. We want to work closer with you than we're currently doing, because we're trying to work on, down in the US, we're trying to work on some of the same things you guys are working on. So let me just run down a few of them. So we announced this week on our Red Planet Live podcast that we're starting a Mars Technology Institute in either Seattle or Denver, Colorado. And the areas of research that it would tackle initially are some of the things you guys just listed off. So what we're going to be looking at is biotech, growing food on Mars, big area for us. I know that's close to Glenn's heart as well as robotics and AI, and then nuclear engineering, nuclear power. I asked earlier about artificial gravity. My personal belief is there's not enough people working on artificial gravity medical issues right now in the world. And so that's my personal we should work on that. But I do want to mention that, with this MTI project, the Mars Technology Institute, there will most likely be opportunities for you guys to propose research projects that would go under the auspices of MTI. So let's, keep an eye on what we're doing with that. We're just getting started. We've just announced it. We'll be talking more about it at our conference at Arizona State University next month, which you can watch online. But keep an eye on that. Second, it's exciting you guys are developing the Mars Explorer mobile, the mobile vehicle, but it's also exciting you're thinking about a mobile analog station. Let me tell you a little bit about Mongolia. The Mongolians came to our conference last year, and you can go watch their talk, but we've been working with them very closely to develop their analog station. And they also started out wanting to do a mobile station, and they had some designs. They've now gotten a lot of support inside their country, all the way up to their president and prime minister for their project. So they've pivoted away from that plan, and they're now building like a full analog station. But one of the things that Robert and I kept talking to them about was, look, if you're really serious about doing a mobile station, get some yurts, 3 yurts, okay? You guys could do this too. You could set up a really simple, cheap mobile analog station with yurts, and then the equipment that would be inside them. So like 1 yurt would be the sleeping quarters, maybe 1 yurt's the common area, 1 yurt's the science lab, something like that. Or maybe one's the greenhouse. I don't know. But think about that. You guys are doing great engineering work there. I hope you guys go build that. But if you want to prioritize of doing something, that's an option too. And that's what we gave the Mongolians advice for. And that's probably what they would have done if they hadn't gotten all the huge support they just got. Next point I want to make. So I'm glad you guys mentioned the MDRS. Think about the MDRS with all your work. Think about coming at and being on a crew, contributing experiments for other crews. The Mars Analog research program that we operate with the 2 stations and our other partners around the world, we want to have more research done overall. And we want to do coordinated research. We want to help the global Mars movement and all the research we all need to do together. So don't sleep on MDRS either. I hope you guys propose a crew for next field season. I personally invite all of you to come stay at MDRS sometime in your life. It's an amazing experience. I just commanded a crew there back in May. It was awesome. And so, it's not just a great experience, but personally or professionally, but it's a great way to apply your research in a harsh environment that mimics Mars. Okay. Let's see. I think that was all the points I wanted to make. Again, very impressed with you guys, very impressed with your chapter. I think you guys are a model of what a chapter should be doing. And so anyway, we'd love to work with you more, and I'm here whenever you guys need me. You can always book time with me or email me. Love to chat more. Harry, take it away.
Copy that. I'm going to share screen. And here we are. Okay. Because you guys are all up there already, it's really easy to get to Flashline Mars. Don't forget, right? It's just a couple of flights for you folks. And it's a spectacular environment. I highly, highly recommend everyone take the opportunity, if they can, to get up there over the next few years. As we run through this project, you'll see a lot of work to be done, but one of the most fascinating parts of it was when you look out and you peer out into this vastness and openness of absolutely nothing, you realize, wow, you are alone. There's nothing out there, no human-centered product at all, other than you see Starlink. I think you can see Starlink there. And then a failed weather vane that didn't make it. 5 of us on the crew. We preferred to have 6. I think 6 is the ideal number. We also want that to be kind of a good mix of science and engineers. You'll see why we need the engineers in a second. You folks are all way down here on the left. Most everyone probably knows exactly where we're talking about, Devon Island. I think it looks like a boot or a sock, but here's Resolute Bay, and then we fly over from there to the Houghton Crater. Houghton Crater, most of you know a lot about. The facility, here we are. This is, all these images are mine, or the team's, sits right on the edge of the Houghton Crater. It's a rubble pile that we sit on top of. And because if you think of it right, the crater is just fluff. Everything that came up and over, it's just hummocky mess of things. Anyway, it's a fascinating place. This is a 180-degree view from just to the right of the station, or just to the west of the station, looking out and over, 20 kilometers wide, 23 million years ago, we had the impact. Fascinating thing that I didn't know is that it's 1.7 kilometer deep at its deepest point. But yeah, no wear and tear. There's no, for one of the other things, put your scientist hat on. There's no obvious wear and tear there. It's all places that no human has ever stepped. And so I would take these steps and be like, there's no one's ever put their footprint here. 80 people have come and visited the station over the 20 plus years, plus the Houghton Mars project are just over my shoulder. Yeah, so I wanted to show you this. This is spectacular. So this is about 5 kilometers away. We did a circle around. We're looking for a polar bear, and that's all we were doing. Is we spent 5 minutes just circling the facility looking for any sign of a polar bear. Didn't see any, thankfully. Being vacant for 6 years, we were a little concerned. As we got a little closer, things looked rather normal, and quite candidly, it looked really good. I won't talk about the landing on the strip because that was the scariest thing I've ever done in my life. And I've done a lot of scary things. This is the crew, day 1, all smiles. Actually, the entire time, all smiles. Just a spectacular crew, really amazing humans. We had to get physical. We had to get up. We had to do climbing. You see Andy belaying Caleb up to the top. We had to clean off the roof. We had to get up there and seal a bunch of leaks, small leaks, tiny leaks, or you can imagine swelling and then of course drying up and shrinking, and that whole environment is not conducive to a leak-free environment. So it was always, there was clearly a bunch of leaks. Not bad, but still there. We nicknamed ourselves the team that broke the mold. This is Olivia and I. We had to get full PPE. This was day 3, so I'd already moved off of the this PPE that she's wearing. That thing, it's awful, hard to breathe through. We had to spend 7 nights outside. We had a bear fence in place. The bear fence would encircle all of our tents, and gotta highly recommend watching out for that because 12 gauge blank shotgun shells, and we almost tripped that wire a few times. This image, I believe, was taken at about 11 at night. Most of you know how bright it would be up there. So yeah, always bright. Upstairs, so you can kind of see the staterooms. This is 3 of the staterooms you can see, and then the 5 of us. We do have hot water heater there. You can take a hot shower. We limited those to 1 a week, just for the simple sake of saving water. Engineers were always busy. You name it, they were doing it. They fired the facility up in about 2 hours, and then they just got to work fixing everything, repairing everything. What's amazing, these Arctic cats were fully operational after a few minutes, cleaning up the spark plug and refueling it. Unbelievable. I couldn't believe how hardy they were. 6 years not being used. Sorry, I love these transitions. The vastness of this place is overwhelming, right? For me, because I'm in San Francisco right now. Everywhere you look, there's a beige building. And here, everywhere you look, there was just absolutely nothing. I got this picture of Olivia. She's standing, you can't tell, she's standing on a cliff that looks down into one of the tributaries to the Houghton River. And she's taking herself images. But it's just almost exactly what I think Mars would be. You change the image and change the sky, and I think we've got a really good idea of what the Martian environment would be. I stumbled on a stromatolite. I almost tripped and fell, and this is probably millions of years old, this stromatolite, but we now have geographically marked it, so we have the lat long on it and several significant finds that we had. This was one of the most significant. I actually purposefully chose to go up to FMARS for this and the algae mat that we found. Olivia, keen eyes, Olivia found this algae mat, and it's coming from nowhere. There's a small stream of water from an upstream source that's now down into the distance. Here you see the tributary that feeds into the Houghton River. But here we are, this algae. I grabbed a sample of the algae, which we were allowed to do, and a sample of water. I brought all of that back. I have not tested the water yet. The algae did not make it. And I probably know why. It's because I can't recreate that environment very well here in San Francisco. If you're able to and you can zoom in, we did have video that for some reason didn't transfer over, but this was actually showing the intracellular transfer of oxygen, and it was spectacular. I couldn't believe, these are 2-micron thick, the cell walls. Also, some of the thinnest cell walls you'll see on any cyanobacteria on the planet. If anybody follows me on LinkedIn, I also have a theory about how old that strain is that I was quick to posit. Station remains in really great shape. If you ask me, we just need to work on a couple of little things. It'll take some money and some effort to do it, but we've got to level it. It's about it's listing 2 degrees away from the crater. A lot of that is because the permafrost has changed considerably over the 20 years. It used to be at 38 cm in depth, and now it's 60. And so we know we've got a permafrost that's softening. And then someone did a really cool image of me in Mark Watney's suit. Thanks to the Mars Society, James and I have been talking for over 2 years about this project. The Nunavut, they were amazing. They were super accommodating. We didn't get our permits from them in time, but that was our fault. We will have them our next mission, which is next year. And of course, to the entire team that really kept us rocking and rolling. So I'll stop sharing and open for questions. And I can always show more images. I have hundreds of images.
Hey, thank you very much, Terry and James. And yeah, in terms of pictures, hit us with pictures. We'd love to see more of that. But in terms of questions, I'm sure people must have 101 different questions. So, and we do actually have a bit of time here. So feel free.
Okay, so maybe I start with the question. It's wonderful to talk to you guys. I'm absolutely happy that you guys presented this work, and it's actually very valuable for Mars Society of Canada to work with you. You've mentioned that you're inviting us to come some experience with your station there. And my question in particular is, what are the duration of the stay, and what are the pre-trainings that you need to be, let's say, eligible for the program?
that's a James question for sure.
I think share screen is still open while one of you is exploring. So maybe we exit share screen first.
Well, I'm just going to show photos while you guys
okay.
chat.
Okay, sorry.
Questions,
I thought it was a mistake. Okay.
So I just want to jump in while James is away and say qualifications usually you have to be in excellent health. No unexpected health events are, that's a situation that's preferred. And people who have some sort of remote wilderness experience is desirable because, as you can see from the pictures, you're really out there all alone. And people who are doing science, some sort of research, obviously preferable. And of course, that encompasses planetology, geology, and climatology, as you can imagine, things that fit for that climate. So those are just the ones at the top of my head, but James might have more.
What are the durations of the stay for the people who get any?
1 to 2 weeks, typically. It's a short season up there. And even when Terry, when that crew was up there, it was getting a little chilly at the end, wasn't it, Terry?
Yeah, chilly, and then the winds picked up, and
right.
Now, Susan, it's a good point, right? There are a lot of other considerations. I have expeditionary experience. I've climbed most of the major mountains on this planet. I'd like to say I could climb Olympus Mons one day as well. But in the meantime, I knew how to handle these expeditions. And so one of my responsibilities was just keeping everybody in line, making sure they were safe. And real quick about safety, I have to say, it's not an unsafe environment, but it's an environment where if you get injured, severely injured, the mission is over. We have to call in for help. If you have to call in for help, it's not likely that you will have instantaneous help. Like I knew how to triage injuries, so I'm all good. I could help you with major injuries. But if it's an injury that I have to mind you over several hours or days, we're going to need a helicopter or we're going to need a plane. And it could be days before we have that type of help. So it's very important that we're all, anytime we're there, we're so cognizant of every motion we make. And I'm talking about every step, because one fall, you've got a broken hand or a broken arm or shoulder, or one silly mistake, and you've got serious injuries. You guys just open your mics and chime in. I'm not going to be able to grab open hands and go ahead, ask away, Marie.
Yeah, it looks like we do indeed have a raised hand, and that's got to be Miriam. Take it away.
Okay, I just have a quick question. Is there any funding that we need to be aware of, or we have to pay, I guess, for that mission, or how would it work?
Yeah, so this particular mission that Terry was on, the crew fee for each member was $20,000. And if you'd like a breakdown on that, I'm sure James Bruk could chime in and let you know what we're covering there. Or you can reach out to us privately by email. But that's, yep, he's back. James,
I'm
take
back,
it away.
guys. Sorry about that. Robert's supposed to be doing an AMA on Reddit right now, and he was having trouble logging in and whatnot. So I had to help him there. Sorry about that.
Sorry to interrupt you. This is HMP from above as we flew over, just so you guys know. That's the only other human-centered project on the entire island. This island is 3 times the size of the big island of Hawaii. So seeing this was like, holy moly. And just so you know, I'm got a photo of that. Yeah. Anyway, James, there was a question about crew fee and all of that. And I, the big expense getting there is all the flights.
Yeah.
It might be a little less expensive for the Canadian contingent, but still it was a very large number just to get to Yellowknife and start staging.
So what we did for 2023's mission is we collected $20,000 from each crew member. It was part of what we were going to do all along for the mission to fund it. And in a couple of cases, the crew member got institutional funding to help support their mission. But even with that, we had 5 crew members, 20,000. That's $100,000 US, right? That was probably not enough for the mission. We still are paying a couple invoices and haven't done all the math yet, but I think we are going to need to go up a little on the number for next year. But we are also going to try to have more than one crew, I believe, in one of these seasons too. So we're just getting started planning next year. We would go approximately July 1st of 2024. And I would love to invite the Mars Society of Canada to send one or more people on the crew. You guys deserve to be up there. And so let's keep talking about how we can help you support that mission. Whether you are able to have a crew member or just be part of our mission support team, that's another option as well. But again, like I'd love for you guys to also be part of the Utah station too. I mean, that one, it's a lot more affordable for people to visit, and also a lot more people are able to go. So, but anyway, you know,
the
both
difference
of these
between the two is just fidelity. I think MDRS, knowing it well and intimately, is very high fidelity. Just so everybody knows.
MDRS has the advantage in facilities. FMARS has the advantage in science, because FMARS environment is more of a Mars analog. But there's also independent reasons to go to both, for both of those reasons too. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. So I have like two small questions. So the first one is you mentioned that you had two people on the team that knew how to start up all the electricity, how to, troubleshoot basically motor vehicles that hadn't been used in 6 years. These specific things that you guys had to tackle right at the beginning, did you specifically select crew members that knew how to do these things? Because you don't know what to expect, right?
We selected really good engineers, and a really good engineer could do anything.
Okay.
If you give them the manual and enough time, they could do whatever they need to do. And that's what happened. We had Andy and Caleb were both very excellent engineers that work at Boeing here in Seattle. And they were able to tackle a wide variety of tasks. Caleb was using the sewing machine to fix the analog suits. He was climbing up on the top of the roof and patching things up. They both were fixing generators and ATVs and trying out all the gear that we brought. That they brought. So I feel like I was there because I helped. Like,
but I think it's interesting. It's interesting to hear that, just because obviously if someone's building a station, like normally it's like you have either refurbished or new equipment. You don't have these problems yet, right? But that's something that you don't expect. And then question number two, regarding water. You said you were rationing water. What is the water system you have up there? How do you, let's say, make sure it's clean water? Did you import it? Did you fly it in? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I can take that, James,
if
you want.
Go ahead, Terry.
As we're right over the Houghton River. So this is the Houghton River on Devon Island. We had fresh water. We tested it before, no bioinvertebrates or anything like that. And we just grabbed it straight out of the stream. The water itself was amazingly crystal clean. You pull it from the stream, there was no silt or no dirt. I was shocked at how good it was. It was very tasty water. I mean, it didn't taste like much other than maybe a little lime. Not lime like in lemon, but limestone. And, it was perfect. We just had to go and travel down. And one of the interesting parts of the mission is we have to go out of Sim to go get the water, because it's such an endeavor. And we have to get 8, usually we get between 7 and 8 jerry cans of water. And we did this every 2 to 3 days, depending on water use. We ended up only using, I think it was 110 liter, 11, between 11 and 18 liter per day for all of us. But we still had to get quite a bit of water, right? And I think that was one of the beauties of it, just having it right there, not having to really just worry about it. And honestly, if I could show you some of the water shots that I have, it's spectacular how clean it is. But getting there, being in probably the most austere environment I've ever been, and I've been in some really austere environments, but when we landed and we got off that plane and it took off, I looked at Olivia and I said, okay, it's us now, nobody else. Got real fast too. Yeah, real quick. This is
but Amanda, the crew actually asked the same question of Robert and I before they left. What are we going to do about the water? Do we need to treat it? Like, one of the things that Robert recommended they do was put a drop of bleach in the jerry can. It didn't seem like they needed to do that because, like Terry said, the water, everything's just so crystal clear, pristine, the air's fresh, you know, but that is one option there. But yeah, we basically, all the crews have always done that. They've gone down to the river and gotten the jerry cans filled and brought them back. And in my opinion, every Mars analog crew should conserve water, because that's just one of the things that we're going to have to do on Mars. At the MDRS, we do give a crew about 150 gallons for the 2 weeks. And a lot of crews just power through it and have to get a refill. And, you know, I definitely think people should be aware of that. And that's just good for living on Earth too.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I wash dishes differently since I'm back from MDRS.
Yeah.
Definitely. I turn the faucet off all the time.
Always.
When I'm washing dishes now, because I just wasn't thinking of it. It's like, okay, you're like letting a gallon of water go like every few seconds, you know? So anyway.
I started thinking in molecules. So just so you know how small I started thinking. We did set out these really cool data loggers that'll be there next year for the next team. Hopefully, James, you and I have talked about this briefly, and I'll mention it. I just want to go back and help set everything up so that the new team can walk right in and they're done. They get to business of science and not have to worry about what we did, which was getting this station up and running. And that we do need to do a little work, James, on these suits, because I think we only have 3 that are highly usable. But you know,
those are the original suits. Those are the first analog suits ever made by humans. Are those suits there?
Wow.
So what is
they're actually high fidelity too? Let me tell you.
Very cool.
Yeah, they're great suits.
Yeah, I have 2 little questions because that was like fascinating and interesting. Number one is, what is the analog suits that you have mentioned difference with the normal suits? I mean, I just want to know if it's a specific fabric, if there is anything that it's interesting to mention here. I would like to know that.
You want to take that one, Terry?
Yeah, they're if anybody's ever done fencing, it reminds me, and Olivia brought it up, it reminds us of what a fencing outfit would be. Very high density fabric that requires some really strong needles if you need to do repairs. So that is one of the list items that we've put on the requirements for the next team who will come. You know, we've left the sewing machine there, and so they'll be able to just jump right in and start kind of repairing things. We might want to get some more of that material just so that we can kind of bring everything back up to par. You know, interesting. So the Arctic cats won't be near as full. We had to bring, the twin otters won't be near as full. So you'll be able to pack a little more. But I would recommend not packing very much, really just food and what you need in terms of clothing. And that's in your science equipment, whatever you might need to bring. But hopefully we're actively involved as you folks come in, decide you want to make the effort. I did get partially funded, over 50% funded. So just so everybody knows, I mean, I had to have it. Otherwise I wouldn't have been able to make it work. And it was from an independent. So the views, you don't really get the views like this at all. When you're down on the ground, you feel like you're on Mars. It reminds me of a Pathfinder, some of those first images that you saw, and even now Perseverance. Susan, go ahead.
Actually, let Marie go next, because if I could, Glenn, just at the end, I want to talk about the EU Interact handover.
Okay, yeah. If you want to talk about that at the very end, we'll hold off on that. Yeah, in terms of questions, Miriam, did you have another question, or is that an old hand?
Sorry, that was an old hand.
Okay, all right. I've got a question from Rym, actually. Unfortunately, she can't join us directly. I believe that she's on her phone. So I'm going to ask on her behalf. This is from Rym. I'm wondering if they can provide more insight on their MCC. MCC would stand for Mission Control Center. And basically, what type of support does the crew get up there with such a distant environment?
I can take that because I led the mission support team for them. We run both of our stations mission support similarly. We have a nightly comms window, and then we'll have a volunteer Capcom that will provide direct information and answer questions of the crew that night over email. Generally, we use email because it's asynchronous. There's no real-time communication because they're supposed to be on Mars. We had a mission rule during my mission that if we were going to talk to our family, we would wait 14 and a half minutes before we replied, or other emails. And we wouldn't do like live video calls. And we, for the most part, stuck to that, but it was hard. So yeah. Besides the nightly comms window, we also, we do have crew reports that they send in, and we'll review those and give feedback. Any questions they have, anything they need us to research, we can do that. But typically it happens over email, and it happens at night because we assume that during the day they're working, they may not necessarily have the power on to use the laptop. So at night, everyone's kind of winding down, writing the reports. It's a natural time to have that comms window. Certainly for an emergency, they should reach out at any time.
Well, that's one thing too, James. We had emergency handsets so we could call anybody, satellite phone, worst case, if anything happened. We did have, and I think everybody here probably knows, Starlink was invited in. So we had real-time comms if we needed them. And I think that was, super beneficial, as it came down to it. But we incinerate all of our waste too, just in case anybody wonders where the bio waste goes. And that's the incinerator laying on its side, and right before we got it up and running. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry. Hanieh, you and I have talked before. How are you? What's up?
Yeah, I have a question because this is absolutely interesting. And as we all know, we are doing analog mission because we want to have more data for the deep space mission, right? So the fascinating work that is ongoing, did any part of it yet translated to the information that could be eventually used in the ultimate real deep space or not?
Well, I mean, I've done several analog missions. I've got over 60 days in an analog environment in different facilities, and I can tell you every one of them has some benefit to bring to our experience that we'll need as we go out and explore out into other planets. In this case, we had oxygen, so we didn't have that, but otherwise remote, on our own, nobody else to help us. There was, this team reliance that I kind of think that was one of the most important things that we had, relying on each other. And this was the first environment I've been in where I knew when I stepped out, I wasn't going to be rescued right away if something happened. And it could be up to days, depending on weather. We were lucky. The weather was fantastic. And I think we just had high winds those last few days. And when I say high winds, these winds are crazy high. They're straight line, flat, hard winds. I'm sure you guys understand that. Sun never went down too. But yeah, to your point, if we start listing all the benefits that what FMARS provides, it's a much higher fidelity environment. Every moment you have to be concerned about your own safety and the safety of the crew. And that felt to me like it was the most high fidelity place I've ever been particularly on analog missions, but on the planet. And I'm good. I want to go back, so really bad.
To really share data between analog stations and different missions and different programs, we really need standards. We need more standards in the analog
that's
community.
The point I wanted to get.
Yeah. And there is Jenny, if you're familiar with Jenny Hesterman,
she's leading the charge.
She's leading the charge on it's like analogstandards.space, I think is their website. Right. But we are there was a comment period on the first draft of that, and we're participating in that. So yeah, definitely we need more data sharing across programs, research areas, station programs. One great example I'm aware of is University of Central Florida. Andre Kasawar does a psychological study for analogs, and so he's collecting data from all these different analogs himself within his project. That's the best example I can think of a cross analog research project that's actually sharing data. But there's not a lot of those, and we need more.
Just one little thing I want to mention, since as I introduced myself, I'm really interested to brain and the function of the brain. I think one of the real limiting factor when we go to real deep space exploration is the problem that we have with blood flow in the brain, the problem that we have with headward fluid shift, and impairments of decision making in the brain, which is a problem during the space flight. So I understood the point that there is a fidelity environment. The crew has to be careful about their health and the other colleagues' health. But then when the brain decision-making power has been reduced, declined, or impaired, then the story will be different, right?
Forgive the interruption, but I have to say, I noticed I had to think thoroughly through every movement, because I was not 100%, and it was likely because of the stress of the environment. So we have several different studies that we did that we'll publish and we're speaking to as a part of the Mars Society Convention, and we noticed a visible, marked decline in cognitive ability just on the stressful environment alone. So that's a very good point. Once you do microgravity, though, that's a different animal completely.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, okay, that was all.
That, I can echo for.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
I can echo that. Like every analog mission I've ever done, I didn't feel 100% either, because you're in a harsh environment. You've traveled. You're dehydrated. You're in the desert. You gotta really think through and not make mistakes in those situations. It's a real thing.
That's interesting. Thank you.
Okay, and I guess that I guess that we'll end with Susan's question, and then we're going to make the big announcement, and then it's the end of the meeting. So, Susan.
Yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know that I'm very delighted that the Mars Society has agreed, the Mars Society US has agreed to allow me to hand over to Glenn Scott the EU Interact Station Manager position. And this has long needed a scientist as the station manager. And so this to me is a fabulous move. And so Glenn will be taking over immediately those duties. And for those of you who are not familiar, their Interact program consists of a group of circumpolar research stations. And so there's so much potential for Flashline. It's all very exciting. And I hope that under his leadership and the Mars Society US in conjunction with Mars Canada, that we're going to see some really amazing missions coming up soon. And frankly, after a decade or so of some inactivity, the idea of having missions up there every year is fantastically exciting. That's all I wanted to say. Congratulations, Glenn.
Okay, thank you very much.
Happy to hand it over.
I'm very much looking forward to getting into that position. I think that it's got a world of opportunity, and it absolutely has to be done. But I don't want to take away from James and Terry's thunder here, but I do want to thank them both. Thank you very much for an absolutely outstanding presentation. It should have been longer, but it was great. So applause all around.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, so I'm going to end with a big announcement here. It's always end with something positive. So I'm going to try to share my screen here. Just bear with me for one moment. Okay, I will assume that my screen is shared. Yeah, let me expand this out a little bit. And unfortunately, for some reason, it always takes me back to the beginning of the presentation. So let's get back to here. Yeah, I've sort of left people very, very intentionally with a bit of a cliffhanger. We've got some very, very important news. Now, I think that most of the people in this room already know about this. We've been talking a lot about the Mars Explorer program. We've been showing you the memes trailer. We've been showing you some very, very nifty models about what we are proposing to do. Well, this is now graduated from models and proposals to actually happening. The Mars Society of Canada has received funding from the Canadian Space Agency in support of the Mars Explorer program, and very specifically the Mars Explorer Mobile Education Station. If you take a look at the bottom picture there, I've spent quite a lot of time over the course of the summer zipping back and forth between Southern Ontario and Montreal. And what you're looking at there is an actual picture of what is actually going to be the memes trailer. I guess not tomorrow because I have another committee meeting then, but over the course of this week, I'm going to be returning to Quebec to transport that trailer to Kingston. I'm going to be transporting it to Hayden Hanna's property. He's building a house there, and quite frankly, that's going to be an absolutely ideal place to bring that trailer back and to start doing the retrofitting. And we do actually have some work ahead of us. They shouldn't be terribly arduous, but I do have to make sure that I do have to install a solar array on the very, very top of the trailer. And very importantly, I also have to turn the first 12 linear feet of that trailer into an analog simulation. And so it's great to be having this funding. We've also been talking to other agencies, other organizations, other companies who are very, very keen to participate in this particular project. I'm anticipating that we should be able to get this construction done by the beginning of October, and then we are on the road. So stay tuned for more pictures, more announcements. This has gone from models to actually happening, and I'm very proud to be able to make this announcement. And with that, that is that. And thank you very much for everybody who's participated in this meeting. Let me stop share here. If you'd like to go, if you're feeling sore, if you're feeling bored, you can certainly feel free to go. At 3:40, I'm going to hang out for another 10 minutes if anybody else has any further questions. But if you want to go, I bid you adieu. And are there any other questions? Whoa.
Are you a professional radio announcer?
Oh boy, I get that
all the time. It's like your life, right? Wow.
I have sometimes stood in front of groups of people, and I've taught them how to feed themselves in extremely harsh environments. And invariably, their first question when I'm finished speaking is, "Have you ever worked in radio?" Yeah. So it's but hey, you know what? Maybe that's something that I really should consider. I'm not sure.
You do an incredible job of emceeing. Thank you so much. That was awesome.
Okay, thank you. So with that, this is the last chance. Everybody wants to go. They're tired. They're bored. Okay, and with that, I'm going to end the meeting. And it's again, James, Terry, everybody else, fantastic, and thank you so much. And everybody else, I will be talking to everybody soon.